What's up guys, today we're going to be doing one of the most common modifications for these Z31s, and that is the Maxima Alternator upgrade. So right here we have our new alternator. See if we can focus on that. Alright, so here we have our new alternator. This is a Maxima from 1991, or 1990 would work as well. One thing that you do want to know, this is a remanufactured, so it means that they take an old one and put new parts into it. But this one does have a lifetime warranty, so that's good. I got this one from Pep Boys. If you go online, it's a discount of, I think it's $56 total for the entire thing plus a core charge. So we're going to go ahead and get that back when we turn the old one in. But that's a good place to get it because that's one of the cheapest places. Rock Auto has one for $50, I believe. But with the return for core shipping, it kind of takes out of that. Anyway, so if you have an NA model, right here is where it's going to be. So we'll go ahead and look. So if you have your AC compressor still, it's going to be right there. And then underneath that is the alternator. Now if you have a turbocharged model, it's going to be on this side. And as you can see over here on mine, I've actually got a fan because that's, I don't know, they sold it in the southwest region of the United States. They had fans. It blows on the injectors up here. So that's that. But if you're turbocharged, it's going to be on that side. And the process is going to be very similar. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, because this belt is in our way, we're going to go ahead and remove this. It's just the tensioner right there. And then we're going to go ahead and undo the tensioner down here. It's actually on the bottom, this part right here. And that'll help it swing loose, and we'll go ahead and pull it out. Now one thing that you're going to want to do is jack your car up. I've got mine on jack stands because it's going to be a little bit easier if we can access it from underneath. And I have a Z31parts.com aluminum tray that I'm going to be removing from mine so that I can access it a little bit easier as well. So let's go ahead and take off these belts. Alright guys, and before we start, we're going to go ahead and undo the negative cable on the battery. You can do the positive as well, it doesn't matter. We just want to make sure that that negative is undone, and then we can go ahead and start. Alright, so as you can see there, I went ahead and got the plug out. And now there's just this one. Right there, you can see the little stub holding on the rest of the ground right there. So we'll go ahead and undo that, and then we should be ready to pull this out. Alright, so now that we've been able to undo that, and I believe it was a 12mm bolt, the last thing that's holding this in are the two bolts up on top. And I actually undid this tensioner bracket right here. As you can see, it's gone now, so you can do that. It just comes out really easily. But the last thing holding this on are the two bolts on top. Alright, so right back there, so there's the alternator, and right on top is a bolt, and you might be able to see I've got an extension on it right up there at the top. So that's going to be the way we're going to be able to do it. You're going to have to come in through the bottom. I tried doing it through the top and I couldn't find it. So if you're able to go underneath, you'll be able to find it. And we'll stick our hand under here and slowly but surely undo that bolt. So we can go ahead and leave this one up here, right there. We're going to leave that one in a little bit just so that it doesn't fall off when we undo the back. And then we'll be able to go ahead and undo this front one and take it out. And one thing I forgot to note is I did have to remove this fan shroud up here. So I've actually replaced my fans with electric ones, so I actually just removed the fan shroud altogether. But if you haven't put in electric fans, you're probably going to need to remove this fan shroud, which is a little bit difficult. You kind of have to undo some tabs on the bottom and then kind of pop it up with the fan clutch and everything all at once. Alright, so we were able to get the old one out. Here it is. This one has actually already been replaced before by the previous owner, because you can see right there, if it'll focus, it says remanufactured, and well, it's upside down. It says remanufactured on it. So this one is actually remanufactured already. But other than that, let's go ahead and go over the slight differences. Slip this one around real quick, actually. Alright, so we've got both of these at the top here. So this one has the battery post here versus this one is a little bit further down here. and then this one has the plug on the side right here, and this one has it further down over here. So it's kind of like shifted a little bit that way on the original compared to the new one. The new one is also bigger, if you can tell the size difference, and that gives because this is a 70 amp and that is a 90 amp. So there's the difference between those two. We can go ahead and swap over the pulleys if you have a V-belt for a naturally aspirated. Alright guys, so now in order to get this old pulley off if you're using the V-belt, what I did is I went ahead and stuck it in some vice grips like this, just chilling on the table here, and I wrapped this rope around it because we don't want this pulley moving. And what I had to do is I actually had to shoot it with a couple shots of WD-40 over there, and then I used my air compressor and my impact gun right here, and was able to get it off with a couple of hits. It was pretty easy. I tried using a regular ratchet, didn't work, so the air gun is definitely the best way to do it. So there you go, and then we're gonna go ahead and take the new one off as well. It's sitting over there if you guys can see, right there. We're gonna go ahead and take the new one's pulley off and then swap them, and I believe the hole in the shaft for the Maxima is larger. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take this pulley and then actually widen it with a bigger drill bit. So we'll go ahead and see how that works out, and let's go ahead and get this pulley off now. Alright, so I was finally able to get the old pulley off. It was actually a little bit tough, so I tried using the hex key in the center of it. Let's see if we can focus on that. I tried using that hex key in there to see if I could put a hex key in and then turn it with a wrench, and it just would not work. It was a 24mm bolt, the old one was 22, just if you're wondering, and it just would not come out, and I was starting to bend the bolts and everything, like round them off. And so I finally said, you know, whatever, and I took this and I put it in the vise like this, and then I just used my impact wrench and just drove it right off. That actually did take quite a bit with the impact wrench as well, so there you go guys. So hopefully excuse me, hopefully what we can do now is take this, and I've heard that you have to drill them out, but mine actually seem to fit pretty well. They might need just a tiny little bit. It looks like they don't fit perfectly on it, but they're pretty darn close. So we'll go ahead and drill those out just a little bit. Probably use a Dremel just to take a little bit off the outsides. But other than that, we can go ahead and tighten that back down, and then I think we might have to space it too with some washers. We'll see that once we're done here. But then we'll be able to put it right back on the car. Alright, now in order to finish off the swap of the pulleys, you need a spacer, and I thought it was just going to be like a washer, but it's not quite, because you want something that doesn't hit the casing, but will sit on the shaft. So you can see this old one here has this kind of sleeve in the middle, and that's kind of what we're looking for. So what I had to do is I went and I found this metal cap of sorts, and it was just the right size, and I was able to grind it down so that it fits perfectly over the shaft just like that. So now when it spins, it doesn't hit anything, and it's also going to space it correctly. So that's what you guys want to find. It was very difficult in order to do this. I'm actually really lucky that I had this little cap here. But what I want to tell you guys is you can switch over to a serpentine belt system, which is what the turbocharged cars use, and I would definitely recommend that, because this was an absolute nightmare. I've spent probably an hour and a half or so trying to get this thing all fixed. So I'd definitely switch over to the serpentine belt. It's just a little bit easier to work on, and you won't have to switch pulleys. It'll be very easy. So there you go guys, that's all I have to do here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put thread locker back on this nut so it doesn't come off, and then we will be able to put it back in the car. One thing to note guys, if you are going to keep the V-belt and you are doing a spacer like me, you want to make sure that it spins freely and nothing hits it once you're done. And also, the top of the nut is going to be a little bit further out than it was when you first got it. It's just because it's spaced and the shaft is incorrect. So just another reason to do the serpentine belt if you haven't already thought about it. There you go. Alright, so I'm going to stick it back in right here, and actually you're able to get these wires on while it's pulled out, so you might be able to pull it out and then undo the wires to start with as well. But I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. The only thing I had to modify was this skinnier wire right here. That one did need to be drilled out a little bit. It had an eye hook, and it was just a bit too small for the old one, or for the new one, and just needed to be drilled out. So I got my drill right there, just opened it up a little bit. But now we got all those connections back, we can go ahead and stick it right back where it's supposed to be and hook everything back up. Alright, so I was finally able to get the new alternator installed. Some of the challenges that I faced were trying to get the bolt in the back. It was very difficult to do that. I also had to loosen this actual tensioner bracket, so this nut here holds the bracket on, and I had to actually kind of take it off in order to get everything to fit. And then I put the belt on before I put the tensioner on, because the new alternator is a bit fatter, and so it doesn't quite fit through the bracket at the low end as much. So when it goes that way, it's fine, and it's nice and tight now. But I had to take the bracket off in order to loosen this belt enough to get it off. But that's all. Overall, it's not that bad. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall my aluminum under tray. If you have a fan and fan clutch and everything, you can go ahead and put that back in. And that should be how to change your alternator, guys. I hope that helped you out. And if you have any questions, go ahead and drop a comment down below. Also, go check out my new website, thezgarage.net. It's got a bunch of resources and everything to help you with your project, some info and some places to buy things. Alright guys, see you later.